Welcome. This is David Boles, Human Meme. Today's topic: do the hardest thing, not the dumbest. Too often in this life, we seek the lowest common denominator. Excellence is too hard. We are weak. We do not want to become stronger. And so the easy way out of anything and everything is best. So we lead ourselves to believe that we are the best. Be best. But today, my human meme friend, I urge you, and everyone you influence and touch, to vow to the world in this moment that you, them, us, we, will from now on always take the hardest route available to us, the rockiest path, the course with the most resistance. And we will do all of that because we must, because we are required to test our strengths, because we are brave against fragility and not frightened by the known. Yes, we must never settle for less, the ordinary, or the status quo. We must always overachieve, set our sights beyond our boundaries, toss our wishes beyond the horizon. Now, here's an everyday example of what we need to do in this renewed attack against fragility. To progress, to think, to invent, to calculate, and to quantify our imaginations. Our children, and the children around us, are tough and resilient, much more so than adults. And children are built that way because everything in the world they touch is against them. Everyone else is bigger than them. The world is too large and too tough. But their imagination is unbound. If a kid gets knocked down, and that pretty much happens every day, they get right back up. It's inspirational. So then, why is children's theater so dumb? Why do we need to water down morality plays and comedies and storytelling to be accessible and understandable by children? And we both know there are children who know what's going on a lot better and clearer than many adults around them. So why not challenge our children with things they may not yet understand, but are also unwilling to resist? Why not present a play for children that isn't just a fairy tale, or a behavior restriction, or a morality lesson, or a cartoon graveyard? Why not do Shakespeare? Who says a young child wouldn't understand or enjoy the writings of the bard? And if they do not understand, or if those children are unable to understand the all of it, whose fault is that? They aren't old enough to not know what they do not know. Children only know what we allow them to know. And so why not expose our children early on to the classics of theater and religion and literature? Are we too scared to allow them to know on their own? Do we fear our children will understand just a little too much in order to outwit us and our indoctrinations? So please do not pick the dumbest thing for our children. Pick the hardest. Challenge them. Being left behind is a big motivator to get caught up. And if a project, like staging a play, takes the same amount of time and effort if you go complicated and complex instead of simple-minded, why not stage the more intellectual communal choice instead of the infantilized version of life? If we do not wish to speak baby talk to our children when they are young, why do we then talk to them in theatrical gibberish when they are of the same age? Treat children with the respect you provide other adults. Allow our children to earn something of value for the effort expended. For our time and energy, do we want to propagate an understanding of classic literature, or create a throwaway notion with all the effervescence and intellect of a lollipop? And yes, if you know me and my background, I've shared it many times here on this Human Meme podcast. You know I initially found my regional fame and my calling in the children's theater movement of the 1970s. But back then we also did some shows that had some thought and some purpose. The Pied Piper of Hamelin, while staged as a show for children, is really about selfish adults and the horror they creep into the lives of the unwitting and the unwilling. Now, this idea of challenging the mind to climb higher, not lower, applies to adults as well. And let's take a look at the modern Broadway stage in New York City. And yes, there are dumb and silly, stupid shows. And those shows make a lot of money because they provide an easy evening of escapism. People will pay a lot of money to leave behind the worries of their modern lives. But do we want a theater of escapism? Or do we require a theater that reflects our values as a culture? And so now I must ask you, why? Why spend the money and the effort to sit there in a theater today and just watch pretty things flashing before you? Why not sit there in the same theatrical seat and look at beautiful things that also make you think and feel and deal with the pity and the terror that are always and forever tearing apart the warp and the woof of our lives? We don't need empty laughter. We need seriousness and catharsis. Even in the best classic comedic farces, we find a reality that is grounded in a dire seriousness. And yet we still laugh because we recognize ourselves, and also because it is just too easy to cry. We escape from the conundrum of living through repression and emotional flaying to find our center. And since we are using the specifics of the modern theater today to make an ageless point in this moment, please allow me to share one last experience that I believe is telling and comprehensive on the same level. I often teach Introduction to Acting, and every new student and amateur actor I stumble upon today, not so much 15 years ago, today, those students want one thing from the class starting day one. And that one thing is this: improvisation. Yes, every young actor wants to start their talented training and ignite their acting career with improvisation. And it always bothered me for many years that these students wanted to start at the end, the hardest earned end, instead of the proper foundational beginning. And then I realized what the young actors refused to admit or share. Those new actors wanted what they thought they wanted was the easy way out. They wanted to make up stuff, improvise. That's what they think improvisation means. And they wanted to get credit for it. Those acting students wanted to go for the cheap laugh instead of the hard-earned underbelly. Those students wanted no rules to restrict them. They wanted to go out and just feel it and perform. They wanted to be set free to do as they pleased. And so they were there really not to learn acting, but to only serve their own ego. And once I finally figured out what was happening, it was always a difficult conversation I then had to have with them individually, to correct their ego of expectation via their own misunderstanding of the process, to let them know that we would never be doing improvisation at any level. Improvisation is a specific skill set, I would explain, that takes many years of training to get right. First, you must learn the basics. You need the foundation. Improv is not made up or of the moment. It takes a lot of expectational training over a lifetime of acting to master those unique moments of opportunities. So, no right acting teacher in the world would even begin to teach improvisation to brand new actors, because the damage to purpose and to person are too great a risk to a young career. Know the rules, follow the lines, never take the easy cheat. Find the fork in the road and split yourself to take on both tines. You are the arbiter of yourself, the keeper of your own talent. And only you can begin to challenge what you do not know with what you need to know, with what you may never know. And the indifference between child and amateur actor improvisation is found in the depth of the valley of the unknowing, against the pinnacle of the unknowable pitfall. Thank you for listening. Be a human meme.